How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the North Star Takes podcast, Minnesota sports podcast here. So please hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. We're going to be talking some Minnesota Vikings today. As it's been a couple weeks of free agency now, we figured we'd get back on the mock draft train and just discuss the latest with the Vikings free agency as well. So let's get right into it, Liberta. How many rounds do you want to do today for a mock draft?
Let's do 3 rounds. Let's just do the first 2 days. I'm thinking. What are you
Yeah,
thinking?
that sounds good, especially considering the Vikings don't have a fourth round pick as of now.
Sure.
Yeah, because I mean, it's hard to know some of these guys in the later rounds. So, I mean, as we get closer to the draft, we'll probably know more about some of these guys. But
Exactly.
all right, starting right off the bat here.
Stingley, number 3.
Ooh, wow, that's a steep.
That's pretty rich.
Yeah, I mean, we're using the draft network, so I mean, it's their predictive board, which isn't necessarily always accurate. But yeah, Stingley at 3 is extremely high, I think. And then looks like Sauce couldn't quite make it to number 12 here, which is a bummer.
The next pick, that's just brutal.
A lot of edges off the board. They got Malik Willis going to the Seahawks.
That makes sense.
Other than Stingley, the top 5 looks pretty standard, I'd say.
Yeah, for sure. I found it a little bit interesting with Evan Neal there, just because they have obviously the former first-round pick. What's his name? From Louisville.
Mekhi Becton.
Yep, there you go. Now, yes, that, I don't know, raises an eyebrow, I guess, but not too crazy. But yeah, 3 offensive tackles in a row. I mean, those are considered the 3 best in the class, but still, yeah, there's a nice run on them. Then Kayvon Thibodeau all the way to 7. So yeah, there's definitely some interest here in the top 10. But yeah, Mod Gardner going literally the pick before us. That sucks.
Yeah, Thibodeau keeps sliding down boards here, like mock drafts and even the predictive board. Like, he's not like a surefire top 5 pick anymore. So it kind of makes you wonder if he'll be the one guy that kind of slips a little bit in this draft.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, I guess we'll see if the buzz is real or if people are just trying to make this fake steam so then they have a chance at him later in the top 10 and not let him get past like 2 or 3 or whatever it might be.
Right. So we're sitting here at pick 12. Obviously, our top two corners that we probably would have taken are off the board.
Yep.
There's not really an edge rusher sitting here that I love. George Karlaftis, I guess, is the next guy. And then the corners even, like you got Andrew Booth from Clemson, Trent McDuffie from Washington. I know neither of us are super high on either of those guys when you compare it to the first 2 guys off the board. So what are kind of your thoughts here? I mean, it's kind of tempting to go with like a Jamison Williams just because he's got that speed factor, or Garrett Wilson was such a stud at Ohio State. And even Jordan Davis could be a game-breaking defensive tackle type player. I mean, he's just massive. He ran a great 40 for his size at the combine. So what are your thoughts here?
You know, this kind of feels a little bit like a worst-case scenario for how this could play out for the Vikings at 12, seeing as the top 2 corners off the board and all those edge rushers. So those feel like the 2 most obvious positions we could lean towards in the first round here. But since it's fallen the way it has, it depends. If you really want to go value here, like true value, and not really looking as far as drafting for need, which personally I'd like to do. I mean, you want to do that every year if you can, but I know we're certainly going to go into the draft with our holes. Like, for instance, we're probably going to need a day 1 starting corner coming out of the draft, whether it be round 1 or round 2. I know last time we did this exercise, we had a potential starting caliber corner we can nab in the second round. So maybe you gamble and take a chance on that. I know that's getting risky having a second round corner, banking on him to start day 1 basically, but I would have a hard time passing on Jamison Williams. I know he's got the torn ACL, and I know he's not going to play right away, and we have all that talent at receiver. But truthfully, all the great teams, they go really deep at receiver. And I think Jamison Williams would be a ton of fun, very explosive, easily the fastest guy. And, I mean, he could do it all. I think he was a bona fide top 10 pick before he got hurt. So, realistically, to have a chance at him, I would really like that selection. But I know that might not be the way the Vikings are leaning here. So, it might make more sense if we went with like a Jordan Davis, albeit Jordan Davis is a pretty he's a great run stopper, but at the same time, he played limited snaps at Georgia, but they were kind of an interesting system because they rotated in a lot of different defensive linemen, keep everybody fresh. He didn't have a ton of pass rushing prowess, so I guess it depends really what we're looking for. So you could kind of go anywhere here, and I wouldn't, like, as far as a defensive player goes or a wide receiver, and I wouldn't really bat an eye, but there's no, like, obvious right selection here. What are you thinking, Bailey?
Yeah, I think I'm kind of with you. It'd be super intriguing to pick a wide receiver, and I would not rule that out with this regime. I just think with
Mhm.
Kevin O'Connell being in place and Kwesi, I think they understand the importance of having a high-powered offense. Um, we're three receivers deep right now, and I know ISM is kind of an intriguing fourth receiver,
Mhm.
but if Thielen gets hurt once again, or if Jefferson misses a stretch of games, it'd be really nice to have a guy like Jameson Williams, albeit he's going to be coming off of ACL surgery.
Yes.
Garrett Wilson's super intriguing. Just seems like a really good all around wide receiver, but he's not quite the explosive type that Jameson Williams is.
Yep.
So I wouldn't be surprised at all to see the Vikings pick a receiver. But also, I think if this is a scenario that's laid out in front of us, it wouldn't hurt to trade back a few spots.
Pick up some
And
draft capital.
exactly, because there could be teams trying to trade up for a receiver or maybe for Kenny
Yeah.
Pickett even.
True.
And then maybe a guy like McDuffie is still on the board, or Andrew Booth, and then you pick up some extra draft capital as well. Or you could even dip down into George Karlaftis or something like that, you know? So I would be intrigued of trading back in this scenario. Basically, if you can't select Stingley or Sauce, and you're not going to select a quarterback, I guess I'd be willing to trade back almost, even though I know Spielman would always trade back and it'd always get annoying. But
Yes.
I think if you trade back maybe 5 or 6 spots, it's not the end of the world, you know?
Yeah, this situation makes sense. Maybe you could honestly find a deal with a team like, let's say, Pittsburgh, who might be in the market to take a quarterback round one. I know they're hanging out, I think, at 20, it
Mm-hmm.
might be, but
Yep.
that would make kind of logical sense if they're moving up to get their guy, their quarterback. So that could be an option, and I'd probably be okay with moving down to 20 because you could probably pick up another high draft pick along with swapping picks there because that's usually how this goes. So
Yep.
this probably is a pretty prime spot to trade down, and everybody gets pissed because there's like Trader Rick and his games moving down. But
Right.
I know it just feels like it makes too much sense here. But since we do have to make a pick, I mean,
Yes, exactly. I'm kind of thinking, based on what I've seen with other mock drafts, I'd say Trent McDuffie is probably the most realistic selection here, just based on what everyone else has been saying and the need for corner. I know you're not a huge fan of him because he doesn't have the ideal size. He's 5'11",
exactly.
193. Obviously, we'd like a bigger, outside corner. But I mean, what are your thoughts here? I guess we don't have to pick what the realistic pick would be. I guess we could just do what we want to do.
Yeah, I mean, I'll let you make this call, Bailey. I'm torn because, like you said, McDuffie feels like the obvious one right now as far as the mocks go from all the experts. But realistically, I'd be good. I always love taking a skill player, obviously like a wide receiver, because that's just so much fun. But I
Yep.
don't know which way you leaning.
Let's go. See, I think it's intriguing too because I've seen like McShay and those guys talk about Drake London going top 10. I don't know. I wouldn't be super intrigued by him. But let's go with Jameson Williams.
Yes, I like that.
Let's just take a shot. I mean, I think having that insane depth at receiver is super important because the offense is going to be what's carrying your team anyways.
Yes, totally agree. I know if we're going to go anywhere, it's going to be based off this loaded offense. So I kind of like just making the rich get richer, I should say.
Exactly. The Bills get Jahan Dotson. That's an interesting pick.
Yeah. Can he pick it to the Lions at the tail end of the first round? All right.
Boye Mafe to the Lions. That would be a nice one to get
Wow.
in the second round too, I think. Ojabo obviously
Yeah.
falling down. Pick 40 though. That's pretty good for tearing your Achilles.
Yeah, no kidding.
Oh man, now we got some decisions because Desmond Ritter is still on the board. Matt Corral is still on the board. And I'm kind of thinking Corral might not be a first round pick. Just, he didn't participate at the combine. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like his stock has fallen a little bit. Christian Harris is intriguing as a linebacker, but not really seen any corners towards the top of the list here. So we might have screwed ourselves when it comes to that position here.
Yeah, I think we dropped the ball on this one.
Yeah.
Let's see who's the top available corner. I guess can you sort by that?
Yes.
All right.
Let's see here.
Yikes.
Yeah, that's not too promising.
No, I think I screwed us there. I was anticipating us having a chance at a very high caliber corner, but yikes, just fell off a cliff. So let's reevaluate. I think there's a lot of quarterbacks sitting there.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking if we, hindsight's 2020 because like Christian Watson's still on the board here, and I think he's going to be just a phenomenal receiver in the NFL.
Yes, he will.
I think we probably could have drafted like a McDuffie or an Andrew Booth and then snagged Watson or even drafted a Matt Corral because from the sounds of it, it really sounds like Kellen Mond is not going to pan out because there's a report today from Chris Thomason saying that they intend for Sean Mannion to be the backup. Obviously, things could change, but that's rough. That's really rough.
That's a bad look.
So what are you thinking? I mean, linebacker seems intriguing, but I mean, now we're kind of set at linebacker now with Zadarius Smith, Jordan Hicks, Daniil Hunter.
EK, yeah. Oh, who is this Tyler Smith? Does that say Iowa?
Yes, interior offensive line, 6'5", 324.
Just a tank.
From Tulsa, yep. Apparently he played tackle at Tulsa, it looks like.
Okay. So maybe. I mean, I don't hate adding to our offensive line, but I mean we've taken one of the first 2 rounds the last how many years now, so it feels like it might be a little excessive.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe a DeMarvin Leal. I know I've seen for the longest time he was always mocked in the first round, and that could be a nice addition to our defensive line. So
yeah,
I would also consider that actually here. What are you thinking?
Yeah, maybe we just go with defensive line here. Just we don't want to neglect the defense too much, I don't think.
Balance it out, yeah.
Because we'll have people commenting on our video saying, what the heck do you guys even know what you're talking about?
Yeah, our defense will give up 30 a game.
Which they might anyways. I mean,
yeah. Christian Watson, the Packers, girls.
Yeah, that's tough.
No.
I think, Watson would be a really ideal second-round pick, I think, because it's probably not super realistic the Vikings would pick receiver in the first round.
True. Desmond Ridder to the Giants.
But I tell you what, if Matt Corral's on the board in the second round, I would take him, I think.
Me too.
And he's actually on the board here in the third round.
Do you want to take another third-round quarterback? I mean, you got Sam Hunt and Carson Strong there, too. It's like just screaming at you to do it.
Yeah, and I think Matt Corral is definitely the best of this bunch. I mean,
I know we just took one last year, but at the same time, this feels too valuable. Like it's just a dart throw. I mean, it's a third-round pick. But
right. And then, I mean, there's a bunch of linebackers towards the top of the board here. We still have to go ways to find a corner. I mean,
would you consider a tight end here?
It might be a little too early for a tight end for me.
Sure. Yeah, it's not a huge position to need. Obviously, we've got Irv Smith, who's going to be the number 1 guy, and now Conklin just departed, but then we also have our guy, Chris Herndon. But, but probably not here. Maybe another round or 2. But let's see. I don't know. Do we get really fun here and take a QB or what?
I think we gotta.
Yeah. All right. Which one are you going to take? And go Corral?
I'm going Corral.
Right.
Are you in agreement on that?
Yeah, I can roll with that.
James Cook was 1 pick before to the Baltimore Ravens, by the way.
Dalton's brother. All right.
Baltimore would actually be an intriguing fit for a guy like that.
Yeah, honestly. Because they have such a run-heavy attack, and then he could kind of be their scat back that catches out the backfield. So
for sure. Carson Strong to the Bills. I kind of like that, too.
Me too. That's a nice project. And the Vikings, they only have the 1 third-round pick right now. Okay.
Yeah, and then there's no 4th-round pick. So that's why, in the first round there, I'm not totally against trading back.
Yeah.
Maybe you can get that 4th-round pick back, something like that. So we ended up with Jameson Williams, DeMarvin Leal, and Matt Corral. All have been projected as first-round picks at some point. So I guess you could look at it that way.
Yeah, that's true. And they're all SEC players.
Yeah, so that's interesting.
Yeah, 100%. Now, I would be pretty satisfied walking away from the draft with these guys, albeit we totally neglected the cornerback need, which would be a huge concern. But let's say Stingley and Sauce are gone.
Yeah.
And we manage to bring back Pat Pete. And I know we're getting into this a little bit, but let's say we sign Chandon Sullivan and becomes our slot corner. They got Dantzler. Like maybe you could kick the can down the road just a little bit farther with the corners. I know I don't really want to do that. I'd prefer to get a corner round 1, but I mean, it's a thought, I guess.
It is a thought. And I mean, corner round 1 is probably extremely realistic, whether it's Stingley or McDuffie or Andrew Booth. I think Sauce could be a top 5 pick at this point, honestly. He just crushed the combine.
Yes, I can see him being going forward to the Jets or something.
Yeah, so I feel like that's pretty far out in terms of the chances of that happening. So, yeah, I think you're probably picking a corner round 1, but I don't know.
Trade back and pick one then.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, you trade back, you recoup like a 4th round pick or something, or maybe a couple of 4th round picks. I don't know what the value could be for. Depends how far you trade back, I guess. But
Sure.
uh, yeah, I'd like to come away with a couple corners from this draft, even if only one is like starting material.
Mhm.
You need to build the depth there because Chris Boyd's a disaster on defense.
Yeah, you can't play.
Harrison Hand, we haven't seen a ton of in game action. I know he picked off Drew Brees last year against the Saints, but
Yeah, he did.
that was just kind of a goofy game all the way around. So
I don't know. Gave him 50
yeah,
points.
that's our 3-round mock draft, picking all guys that are fun, had been projected 1st round picks at one point. So definitely interesting stuff there. But
Yes.
let's dip into free agency here because that's obviously what's going to set up the draft. We signed
Mhm.
Zadarius Smith, and his contract details have come out. And it appears he's only going to have like a $3.3 million cap hit for this coming season, just based on all the little maneuvering they did. It had something to do with him missing like 16 to 17 games last year that they were able to basically cut his cap hit in half. At least I think it's like some sort of guarantee or something like that. So obviously, a very team friendly contract for him. And what it boils down to is it's basically a 2-year deal because that 3rd year's just got a ton of cap money thrown into it, but none of it's guaranteed. So, yeah, what are your thoughts on the contract? And then you mentioned is it Chandon Sullivan?
I think it's Chandon. Maybe it's
Chandon.
Chandon. Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's Chandon. But anyways, yeah, I'm pretty excited with how this Zadarius Smith signing happened and the way it's structured, just because it's given us still that bunch of space to use in this current time period. So that's great because I mean, over only a little over $3 million for him. I mean, that's incredible. So especially
Yep.
like if he's staying on the field, he's gonna be great. So I am pretty excited about that, and it gives us the flexibility to sign somebody else too, like a
Yep.
Chandon Sullivan. I know Sullivan's not going to come with some high price tag, so like you'd still have more moves that you could make. So like that's not a plus. But yeah, I like the way this has been going the last few days. It's certainly better than the way it started. So I guess that's progress, and let's hope we can just keep patching holes in this defense. I know
Yeah.
kind of did the same thing last year and it didn't work. Like it blew up. Like we tried to fill in all these holes in defense through free agency, and like I think the thought process was decent, but it was just the players we identified just didn't pan out. So it is
Hmm.
what it is. So hopefully this year you have a little bit better luck and the new regime put guys in better spots. Who knows? But I like the way it's looking now because it's really the big area of concern now is just cornerback on defense. I feel like
Yeah.
your linebacking core is solidified. I think you have two very capable safeties with Smith and Bynum. And then up front, you're going to have Harrison Phillips and Delvin Thompson. I don't know who that third down lineman's going to be in the 3-4 look, but I don't know if we're going to play a ton of true 3-4. So that probably
Right.
doesn't matter a ton. So realistic, it's going to come down to filling holes at corner because we literally only have one guy we can throw out there right now and actually kind of
Hmm.
trust, and that's Cam Dantzler. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, it's at this point, it's probably smart to bring back Pat P. At the very least, you have a stable outside corner that can start. But if you draft if you can somehow get like a Derek Stingley and he's ready to go, then Patrick Peterson can kind of be your 4th corner and just be kind of like what Terrence Newman was for a while under Mike Zimmer. So I think that'd be a smart idea. But yeah, corner is really the only area. It would still be nice to get like a JC Treader in here. I mean, we have the cap space. It appears we're going to have roughly, I think it's between 16 and 13 million in cap space after the Thielen restructure comes through, and now that the Smith contract details are all done. But I mean, there's still some cap space to go and sign like a JC Treader, solidify that offensive line. Then you kind of take away that temptation until maybe later in the draft where you draft another guard or something. If Wyatt Davis isn't ready. So, um, but yeah, Kwesi made a comment too about how this defensive scheme was really going to help cornerbacks, like in terms of like getting the pass rush. They've obviously placed emphasis on the defensive line with signing Zadarius Smith, Harrison Phillips, bringing Daniil Hunter back. So I think I wouldn't be surprised if they do sort of neglect corner. Like they'll draft one, I'm sure, but I don't know if they'll place such a heavy emphasis on it like people think they might.
yeah, I totally agree. I think I read that somewhere even that it's like this defense isn't so predicated on your corners being fantastic. So I think that helps us in the immediate because we don't really have a lot of depth there. So you're kind of right. It might be a ongoing project more than just beyond this year, but it'll also
Yep.
be going into future off seasons like next year, the year after, where we keep taking a corner here and there until it's built up again. So I hope he's right, anyways, and hope that we don't have to really have great corners out there because, quite frankly, we're not going to. I mean, we're going to
Yeah.
be rolling out there at least one rookie, I'd say. So that's a little bit worrisome because I know corner can be a big jump from college to the pros among any positions. It's a pretty hard one to learn. So I think let's hope he's right.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's crazy because we talked about Kayvon Thibodeau kind of falling in that mock too, and it's like, man, if he's somehow there at 12, or if you're within a couple draft spots, would you maybe trade up to get him? I know you have Zadarius Smith now, and it's not a need,
I know,
but I mean that could be a transcendent type player on your defense that is young and could make an immediate impact.
The value there would be incredible.
Sauce, I think, is still probably my number one, but
Me too.
It's too unrealistic, I think.
I know all these guys we want are going to be top 10. That just sucks because it's like we're going to be so close, but just not quite.
Exactly. So do you have any other final thoughts here before we take off on the way free agency is shaping up, and as we're basically a month out from the draft now?
Yeah, definitely be on the lookout for any JC Treader rumors. I think that would be a home run for this offense because then if you can plug him in and let's say why Davis can actually play, I don't know where or if we have any holes on our offense. Like I think we're solid across the board. Like those are the concerns I have. We have 11 starters. I feel good about 9 of them. Obviously, Kirk, that's another debate, but I know we've really hammered that one home. But as far as like being playable guys that aren't liabilities, it just comes down to our center and right guard. And if we can plug those holes, let's hope internally Davis can play. And then if you get a guy like JC Treader in here, I'd feel really good about where our offense is at.
Yeah, I agree with you. And the offense is going to have to carry this team. There's no doubt about it.
Yes.
And people might be upset if they, prioritize maybe picking a receiver earlier than people would think, even though it's not a need. You got to dump resources into this offense because the offense really should be a top 5 unit in the league.
Exactly.
Whereas the defense is probably going to be in the bottom third. So
exactly. Plus, Thiel's missing a lot of time these last couple of years. I know he's still a red zone machine, like scoring touchdowns right and left when he does play. But at the same time, kind of nice to have somebody in your back pocket that's like a developmental player that could basically take the old spot here in a couple of years. So
exactly,
and that'd be nice, like a guy we just mocked with Jameson Williams.
Yes, and Osborne is very good too, and I think he can fill that role. But you need the depth because the second you have one receiver go down, you only have 2. So it's like. And it's it's not out of the realm of possibility that a couple of these receivers get hurt. So I think it's smart to do that. I would guarantee they'll pick a receiver at some point in this draft. It's just impossible to know when. But that'll do it for this edition of the North Star Takes podcast. Please be sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a like, especially if you're a Minnesota Vikings fan. Give us a follow on both Twitter and Instagram, and let us know your thoughts below. How do you think we did on the mock? Do you think we completely screwed it up? What would you have done differently? And what are your thoughts on the Vikings free agency so far? And who do you hope to see that they pursue before? There's still quite a few good guys out there. Like Stephon Gilmore's still out there too, which is wild. But who do you hope that they can go sign with the rest of their cap space here? And until next time, thanks for watching.